Hello and welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. It's EDH Commander Thursday, and in today's video, we are going to roll out with our 7th installment of our Partner Quick Take series. Hello and what's up, MTG BC? That's the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to the Partner Quick Take series. If you've been watching these episodes all along, then you know we began by shuffling the entire 56 pile of each legendary creature with the partner mechanic. We then doled out 4 2-card piles in each video, and then we revealed each 2-card pairing, and right here on the spot I gave my initial reactions as to how I would build a deck featuring those 2 partner commanders. No card databases, no gatherer, no EDHRack.com, just 100% MTG Burgeoning. Well, folks, we did 6, so this is our 7th and final one in this current iteration of the series. And the next time that we come back, we'll have all 56 commanders ready to shuffle up and start all over again. So this is our last 8, so let's give the last 8 legendary partners one more final shuffle. We're going to deal it out, and we're going to see exactly which wild and crazy combinations we're going to see. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here we go, the Partner Quick Take series. All right, folks, here we go. Pile number 1, partner 1 is, there he is, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. 3 in a blue. We may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature we control, except it's Sakashima of 1,000 Faces' other abilities. The legend rule does not apply to permanents we control, so hopefully the other partner that we have is one that would be most beneficial in copying with Sakashima's ability. Let's reveal that, and it's going to be Tymna the Weaver. And yeah, that's going to work out. That's going to curve out amazingly. So we have Tymna the Weaver as a 1 white and a black 2/2 lifelink human cleric. At the beginning of our post-combat main phase, we may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If we do, we draw X cards. Now, I'm pretty sure that if we were to copy Tymna the Weaver with Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, that we would have 2 triggers for each one of those opponents that lost damage. So that means that turn 3, maybe turn 2, if our ramp is running well in our Esper control deck here, turn 3, we're casting Sakashima, we're swinging with a creature, or we're doing some kind of, we're swinging with some number of creatures at an opponent or opponents, and then at the beginning of our post-combat main phase, after our combat phase, we're going to pay the X life 2 times and draw 2 times the number of cards, because Sakashima is going to allow us to copy the abilities of Tymna the Weaver. And of course, the legend rule doesn't apply, so we don't have to sacrifice Sakashima upon it entering the battlefield. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure that I can keep my hand filled, which Tymna the Weaver and Sakashima will allow me to do. We want to cast all kinds of spells, creatures, we want to get into play, we want to overwhelm the board. One of the enchantments that's sticking out of in my mind like a sore thumb is Campaign of Vengeance. I think that was from Eldritch Moon. It's an uncommon. It reads, whenever a creature you control attacks, each of the defending player loses 1 life and we gain 1 life. It's some kind of rule text like that. So I definitely want to include Campaign of Vengeance. I want to include Cathar's Crusade. I think what we could do is maybe just build around kind of like an Esper zombie deck, where we have a bunch of different zombie creatures that can come into play, cheap mana values, recurring from the graveyard, overwhelming the board, swarming our opponents, keeping our hands filled with Tymna's ability and Sakashima's ability as well. So the direction I would want to take here is an Esper zombie control deck. That's what I would want to do with Tymna and Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. That is a very, very interesting pairing. Tymna and Sakashima. I like that pairing quite a lot. Esper Zombies. Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. All right. Pairing number 2. And the first one is Radiant Sarah Archangel. How about the original Radiance? Boy, did she take a step down in value and playability here in Commander Legends. Anyways, here we have a legendary 6/4 Flying Angel for 6 and 1 white mana. We can tap another untapped creature we control with flying, and Radiant Sarah Archangel gains protection from the color of our choice until end of turn. So immediately, what I'm already thinking is a ton of small flyers, enabling Radiance to always be protected from colored removal, all kinds of colored protection, and we're looking for a Voltron strategy. We're looking for auras. We're in the color for auras. Equipment are colorless, so they're going to go into any deck anyways. So my initial thought with Radiant is a deck filled with little flyers that's going to provide a good amount of protection and then swing for lethal Voltron damage. I'm going to be honest, the 6 and a white is a little scary. So at this moment, I think we're leaning a little heavier on mana rocks than we normally would, just because once Radiant dies, we're looking at a mana value of 9 for our command, or not a mana value of 9. We're looking at a commander tax of 2 plus the mana value of 7, equaling a 9 mana investment to get Radiant into play for a second time. All right, so let's see. The second is going to be Alina, Kessig Trapper. So we're going Boros here. That's a pretty good way to start things off. All right, Alina is reading 4 and a red. She's a 4/3 first strike, and we tap to add an amount of red mana equal to the greatest power among creatures we control that entered the battlefield this turn. So I think this kind of plays into our strategy. It's really good to see that Alina can tap for some mana. That will help casting Radiance maybe a bit earlier, particularly if we're hitting our mana rocks while whipping through the cards in our Boros deck. I want to see nothing but flying creatures being added to this deck. We can even go as far as to, not just the birds. We can include some dragons, we can include some angels, particularly to take advantage of Alina's ability of tapping to add red mana to get the mana equal to a power of a dragon or an angel creature that entered the battlefield. So this deck, I'm looking at a bunch of auras, not a bunch of auras, but I'm looking at some select powerful auras to help Radiant and Voltron damage. Looking for some key equipment to help Radiant as well. We're also going to include some equipment to protect Alina, because we definitely want to utilize her ability of giving us that free mana. So we're going to make sure that we have Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Whisper Silk Cloak. We're also going to include a bunch of birds, not too many. I mean, I'm not talking like including 25 birds, but we want to make sure that we have some creatures in play that we don't mind tapping to make sure that Radiance has protection from a color until the end of turn. So some spells that might create some spells that might create spirits that fly, that create birds that fly, that we can use to make sure that we can always protect Radiance so that she can deliver the combat damage via Voltron. All right, I think that's what we're going to do. We got a typical Boros deck. However, we're going to be ramping a bit more because Alina is going to provide us with a ton of mana. Can you imagine? Let's just say on a turn-by-turn basis, we cast Alina turn 5. We'll protect her with the Lightning Greaves. So we can protect Alina, we untap, we move to turn 6, play a land, we cast a creature that has a power of 4, we're tapping Alina, that creature that has a power of 4 that comes into play, we're tapping for 4 red mana. So we're going to really be able to outrace our opponents, and that's a smashing thing to think about because we're in Boros colors. So this is a pretty interesting pairing. Angels and Dragons, they're not cheap, and Alina can make it so that they are going to not tax our mana resources as much as they might normally under non-Alina circumstances. So Radiant, we're focusing on some protection for Voltron, and Alina, we're looking to cast our big old bad Boros Flyers. I think nothing but flying creatures added into that deck, particularly because we can use Radiance as a win condition. All right, we've got some really good deck selections so far. We got some Esper Zombies, Boros. All right, here we go. Pairing number 3, it is Ludovic, Necro Alchemist. Okay, 1 blue and a red for a 1/4. At the beginning of each player's end step, that player may draw a card if a player other than you lost life this turn. So immediately, this deck is kind of trending towards a group hug kind of archetype. Personally, for me, I usually, no, that's the wrong word. I always stray away from creating a group hug deck. I don't want to sit down and help out my opponents unless we're teaming together in a different variant, like taking on the Horde or playing Chaos Magic with, multiplayer two-headed giant style like that. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I mean, the group hug cards are out there. You just want to make sure that this doesn't hurt us more than it's going to help us. And that sometimes can be the case, particularly when you're sitting down with the idea of helping out your opponents, where opponents may only want to help out themselves. So let's see who we're going to pair with Ludovic. And that is going to be Siani, Eye of the Storm. So Siani is going to tell us 3/2 for 3 and a blue. And she flies, and whenever Siani, Eye of the Storm, attacks, we scry X, where X is the number of attacking creatures with flying. Okay, so we're looking at we're looking at an Izzet deck that lets us scry with scryers, I guess we'll call them, and then we are awarding our opponents if other players dealt damage. Oh boy. Okay. This one seems like it's going to be a tough one to make work. All right, so we have 3/4, so we can cast these on curve. What's the best way to do that? Well, I think the best... Scry X for X the number of attacking creatures with flying. Okay. At the beginning of each player's end step, okay, so I think the best way to do this is, I think we kind of have to rely on a build that kind of centers around flying creatures and centers around spell slinging, because I think that what we're trying to do is to take advantage of being able to draw cards. We need to make sure that we can send creatures into combat. And we're going to send creatures into combat that have evasion because we want to make sure that we can draw a card using Ludovic's ability. To reward that, the flying part of the evasion, to reward that, we can scry the top of our library to try to find some of the choice spells that we need to help close out the game. So I think what we're looking at here is we're going to inundate the deck with blue-red flying creatures or other creatures with evasion. We kind of want to stick to a flying theme so that we can use Siani's ability so that we can abuse that as best we can. I mean, it's a scry X, and we have to send a number of creatures into play. It could just be one, but the fact that it's X, we probably want to make sure that we can do that multiple times, multiple creatures, so that X can be bigger, and we can locate some of the choice cards at the top of our library, flushing them to the top of our library so that we can draw it with Ludovic. That's how I'm thinking. So I think we just look at some of the best blue and red Izzet spells that the format has, which pretty much is all of Magic. We just try to find out our cards that could close out the game. I think that's the best thing we can do. Is it scryers with spell slinging attached? Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I think it could work. It would really depend on what we so deem our end of game or close to end of game instant and sorcery spells that would flush up to the top of our library with the Siani's ability, and then we can draw them with Ludovic's ability. I think that's going to be the best way we can do it. Let's just flood the board with some flyers, and let's just see what ends up happening by manipulating the top of that library. Okay. All right, folks, that's it. We've got one pairing left. Who are the last two? One I can remember. The other one I'm having trouble thinking of. So let's see if the first one is the one that I can remember. It is, oh, this is the one I forgot. Rayhan, Last of the Abzan. We've got a white, jeez. Seriously, one black and a green. Rayhan, Last of the Abzan, enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever a creature we control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had one or more +1/+1 counters on it, we may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature. All right, so we're in black, we're in green. We can definitely synergize a lot with +1/+1 counters. The green right there already means that we can think about adding a doubling season. We can think about adding branching evolution. There's a lot of different things we can do, particularly if we want to throw in some kind of token theme to also pump up the synergy with doubling season. So we got a lot of creatures that are going to put +1/+1 counters here. So Rayhan is definitely bringing a Golgari +1/+1 counter theme. However, paired with the last commander with the partner mechanic number 56 coming from the Cynic Guild, we've got Thrasios Triton Hero. I was wondering when this Merfolk Wizard was going to show up. And of course, here we are with the very last pairing. And we're looking at a Sultai deck of just bliss. This is going to be, we can make this in such a ridiculously powerful way. Thrasios, green and a blue. 1/3 body, tap 4, scry 1, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, otherwise draw that card. So what we've got here is we've got all the means for ridiculous ramp through Thrasios, and to like Simic needed any way to further solidify the +1/+1 archetype that it usually presents with creatures like Zigana, Prime Speaker. I mean, we are just going to synergize these two commanders perfectly in this Sultai build. We got +1/+1 command. We got +1/+1 creatures that are going to be going into play. We've got all kinds of. Oh, this is just going to be ridiculous. What the different options that are available here. I'm thinking we can throw Hydras into this deck. Hydrate Krasis would be ridiculous in this deck. We have the ability to generate, of course, you know, we can take a full advantage of Thrasios' ability to draw in our entire deck. That's not going to be a problem at all, specifically if we really, really get ridiculous with what we want to do, and maybe we are including an Earthcraft with a huge amount of token creature spells, and we're just tapping, we're untapping, we're casting, we're tapping, we're untapping, we're going through the entire deck. Yeah, this seems like it could be very powerful. The number of possibilities here in this Sultai build. Wow, this one seems like it. Honestly, of the 4 pairs of this video, it seems to me that this deck would take the longest to refine. And I say that just because the previous 3 examples here, if we pull back here for a moment, looking at the Izzet Flyers / Scryers, and we look at the Boros with Radiance, and we look at the Esper with the Zombies, I think that those are pretty, not restrictive, but the restriction is going to breed a more defined and specified focus and a more optimized way to do a specific archetype of what you want with each of those 3 previous pairings. Here, I mean, let's be honest, the entire world of Magic in these 3 colors are just open for us to do whatever we want to do with them, just because of the way in which this color wedge solidifies with each other. I mean, the +1/+1s are there, which we see in Simic. This is just going to be a ridiculous build. I think this would be the most difficult deck to refine and complete a deck list for, just because the options are so numerous. I mean, really, what I would probably do, I would just do everything I could to take advantage of as many +1/+1 counter synergies as I possibly could, and then use Thrasios to come in and just get me my entire hand and just win the game like that. I really don't think that's just the first thing that would come to my mind, and that's really what I would want to do. Wow, jeez. That's a great pairing. Thrasios and Rayhan. Rayhan, the Last of the Abzan. All right, fans of MTG Burgeoning, we have done it. We have cycled through all 56 legendary creatures with the partner mechanic. We did it one video at a time, 8 commanders per video. 56 combinations. I'm sorry, not 56 combinations, 28 different combinations, 4 combinations per video. What a ride it's been. If you missed any of the previous Partner Quick Take series, you can click the links in the description below. And this is going to be it for this current iteration of the series. We will return when we shuffle up all 56 legendary creatures with the partner mechanic and we take this train out one more time. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.